Sorry.
Suffered.
Yeah. So Rich is one of the co-founders of the Open Directory. He's moved on to bigger and better things. Now he bans the Open Directory. And with setting that tone for the session, let's see what's come in. Hey, Matt. What's the deal with the Panda Farmer, whatever we're calling it these days, update actually happening outside the U.S.? When's it going to go into other places?
A fair question. So what we try to do is we try to roll out our launches in as many languages and locales as we can, but we have to carefully test it. So, for example, we've had synonyms where somebody's like, I want approval for, Hungarian synonyms. And they're like, okay, we'll give you approval for Hungarian, but you have to prove that you're really good for German synonyms. So it's been through the full evaluation process. We've had a chance to test it in the U.S. We're in the middle of testing it for other international locales, but we're going to have to wait and see and make sure that that gets approved by the evaluation group. The particular types of stuff that would tend to be targeted is a little more present in the United States, so the effect is not quite as strong internationally compared to maybe in the United States, but it's on the agenda. I don't have a specific timeline. If you had to nail me down and torture me, I'd probably say on the order of weeks, but I wouldn't probably want to be more specific than that. It's really dependent on when we can make sure that it's an actually good change internationally and not just in the U.S.
Hey, anybody? Several clients are starting to use segmentation tools on their websites. They'll show one version of their site to new visitors, and then they will show a different version to returning visitors. Is that cloaking? Do I need to be worried about that?
Yeah, I'd be concerned about that kind of behavior. Obviously, there's reasons to do this, and you just need to be careful, right? There's lots of times when a logged-in experience will be different for obvious reasons. I wouldn't worry unless we're aware of it. And if we're aware of it, then you should probably be concerned. So it's not something that I advocate that you be doing.
Yeah, I mean, as the web gets more rich, people want to do richer and more interesting things, geolocation, and some of that stuff is totally fine. Geolocation, for example, is taking an IP address and serving different content to French versus German versus UK versus US people. So the analogy that I like to use is, do you have code specifically written that targets Googlebot? So are you from the country Google Stan, right? Or is your user agent Googlebot? Or is your IP address Googlebot? And if you're doing special or different things for Google, that's where you're in a relatively high-risk category. There's other stuff you can do, like, oh, do they use JavaScript or do they support cookies, where you can try to carve out Googlebot and treat it differently. And that, again, I would be very careful about, because if you're getting a different experience, if you look on the cached page of Google versus what you actually see when you land on the page, that's something that users complain about, right? So if you see a paywall when you land on the page, but you can see it in the Google cache, that could be problematic. And so we have a program called First Click Free, where you can actually serve the content to Google, and then users get that first click, and then you can show after that first click some sort of subscription or otherwise try to upsell them. But the easiest litmus test is, are you doing something specifically for a search engine agent in terms of IP address, user agent, those kinds of things. That's when you typically are on more thin ice.
So if they came to the website, if Google came to the website, if they were showing a different thing based on cooking, can you take a cookie? Do you take cookies?
I don't think we take cookies right now.
All right, so you would never have an issue of seeing because what probably they don't want to have happen is you've been here before site being listed in Google. And since they're not doing anything special for you, they're just saying, well, here's a cookie, you want to return, you can deal with it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're treating us like a new user who's coming with a desktop IE or Firefox or Chrome. That's typically the way that we want to be treated anyway. Hey, anybody, do links that come from article syndication efforts have less value because they're on pieces of duplicate content? So, write my article, someone wrote an article, not me. They link to my website. That article gets distributed to 200 of the best other websites across the web, all with multiple hyphens in the domain names.
So do I got 200 times more love? That's a no.
You go first, and then I'll follow you and say no as well.
Seriously, guys, take a look at the quality of the site where the link is coming from, because we're taking a look at the quality of the site where the link is coming from. We're taking a look at the content. Something we're really good at is seeing patterns. So that article that was syndicated 100, 200, 300 times, we can see all that, right? And we see what's happening with it. So to me, that is not a natural way of building links for yourself. You're not going to appreciably increase the value by following that model. So, it's your choice, to be fair, but it's probably not the wisest investment of your time.
What my colleague from Bing said? No, it's the case that...
Are you going to copy your colleague from Bing?
No. Let me actually expand on that a little with my own distinctive way of saying it.
By the way, should anybody's answers sound similar to the answers from someone else, it is not that they are copying someone's answers. They're merely hearing the audience tweeting back what is happening. And it is a user engagement signal and should not be seen in any negative fashion.
Okay, so let's pull it back. Let's pull it back to...
We can dispense with all that stuff now.
Yeah.
It's just one big thing.
We're trying to be nice. So we're... think about it. You're basically writing an article, trying to push it, trying to syndicate it out to hundreds of places, trying to get a link that might count, but it's fundamentally duplicate content, and it's fundamentally not as much of a link that's freely and editorially given, the kind of link that you want to count and to carry weight. So certainly, if you were competing against a site that was doing something like that, you probably wouldn't want those links to count as much. You'd want the links to count if they were really given because it was a fantastic site, not just because you wrote an article about it and placed it on every article directory across the web. So that's your intuition. That's also our intuition, and we try to write the algorithms in such a way as to not count those sort of links as much.
On Bleco, we've got a set of dupe text detectors as well, and we apply them to all the content coming in real time. And you can actually come to bleco.com and find an article, and if you click on the SEO button under the article, we've got a tab where we'll show you all the duplicate text. So you can actually see internal duplication within your site, off-site duplication. Sometimes somebody's just legitimately quoting you. They quoted a couple sentences or a paragraph. Other times you can see people stealing your content wholesale. Or if you're syndicating content, you'll see all the syndicated copies of that. I mean, for our case, what we try and do is basically determine if it's chronological, what's the first one we saw, so we can link to the original breaking news site in the case of news stories. Or if it doesn't have chronological property on the content, what's the highest ranked one? And let's just treat that one as the canonical copy and sort of ignore all the rest. And the only other thing we do is that if the piece of content in question occurs on just way too many domains, like over 10,000, we'll actually go and take an extra special look at that with our algorithms and say, this is some kind of boilerplate, maybe, or this is just industrial scale spam. Maybe this shouldn't be ranked for any search.
So just an idea for you guys. If you're looking at the concept of article creation as a way to do link building, maybe you want to change that around because you're already going to invest some time into creating some content. So, everybody's familiar with the concept of guest blogging. Seriously, if you're an expert in your area and you're going to create some content, then talk to people that are also respected websites related to you where you would like links and find out if your time and good content is worth them linking to you. That's a good way to build links to your website. So, don't do the article submission stuff. Do the real work.
Hey, it's great to say that you should just get links and write great content and it'll all come to you. But here in the real world, it doesn't actually say that. I'm interpreting a bit. But large retail e-commerce sites face a unique SEO challenge. We have thousands of products and related keywords to rank for, but little unique editorial content. Now, what JCPenney did was blatantly wrong, and I didn't even realize that they were still a company that was selling things. No, that wasn't in there either. That's just me remembering them as, that other store in the mall you didn't go to. How can these companies build enough links in a 100% white hat manner? And more broadly, I mean, that is the advice. Like, just go get links. But, getting links ain't that easy. And people don't give links anymore. And when they do give links, they're like, oh, I got to follow them. Or I'll give you a link, but it'll be from the word the. It's... And do you know, by the way, I've been in the New York Times so many times now for stories about spammers, and they link to the spammers, and they don't link to me.
I know.
Right?
That annoys me too, actually.
In the story about Blacko yesterday in the New York Times, they linked to 3 of the sites that you kicked out. Yeah. I don't think they linked to you. Maybe they linked to you.
Yeah,
but if I had been in the story and quoted, I wouldn't have gotten a link. So,
So let's leave the e-commerce out for just a second and just talk about general getting links, because not everybody in this room is an e-commerce or comparison shopping engine. I think some are, but let's talk about the general case first, and then maybe we can talk later if you want. Or at least talk about the general case, and then we can narrow it down. So in the general case, think about a site like Groupon, right? Groupon was founded in, 2008? They're like 2 years old, right? And they just turned down like billions of dollars worth of money. Like, they're doing relatively well. You think about Twitter, Facebook, a lot of popular sites didn't necessarily grow through search engines. They grew through viral stuff, people telling their friends. You've got more social media with Twitter and Facebook going on than ever before, right? And so there's more of a chance to get buzz, more of a chance to make excellent kinds of things. Now, some of it can be tied to specific stuff. You could imagine coming up with an app for SMX or South by Southwest. You can have original content. You can have original research. You can do newsletters. There's all these great ways to make an impression, right? And there are plenty of examples of sites that have grown incredibly fast, not necessarily through search engines. The sort of sites that Rich was talking about where, even if all their search traffic disappeared, they would still be totally fine. Think about something like, Stack Overflow. Just by making fantastically cool site, they have rabidly loyal people who will come there regardless of whether they find it on the search engines or not. Why? Because it's branded in their head. They get higher quality content. Right? So a lot of people tend to think about, how do I rank higher in search engines? So to do that, I need to get some links. So to do that, what do I need to do? And what you want to be thinking about is, how do I make a site so excellent, or some cool gimmick, or some hook, or some reason why people love you, or will talk about you, or some feature, or some open source product, or something that grabs their attention and sort of raises your site above the din, above the noise. And if you can do that, then you start to get the traction. Then you start to get people who will link to you of their own volition. So if you're an e-commerce site, you can imagine different ways of slicing and dicing data, right? Or coming up with weird or unusual products of the day. I mean, think about Woot. They sell one product per day, but they have these crazy monkeys and all these other ways where people have actually heard of them, right? So they get a little bit more attention. They get a little more mind share. So the question to ask yourself is, how is my site different from everyone else in the room? And then how do I make that more different? And how do I make that so it'll get more attention? And the links, they just follow naturally, right?
So there's a couple of things here, and thanks, Matt, because... Yeah, I mean, really. And then from there, I can't stress this enough. Become an authority on who you are and what you are, right? I talked on panels before about making money with your blog, and the whole point behind that is that you have to have a passion for what you're doing. It comes through, and you are successful as a result. So the same kind of thing appears everywhere. I mean, if you're in e-commerce, there's going to be an area where you're successful. Grab that, expand it, invest in that area, make those areas, because they are high value to you, make those the areas you invest your slimmer resources in creating unique content for. Grow that out. That's going to influence the other areas of the site, and continue to do that. Another thing you need to keep in mind, guys, how many links do you think you need on a page to start ranking well? Is anybody going to throw out a number? 753?
87%.
87? 5? Yeah, okay. So, just about what I thought.
It's 5.
So you don't always need hundreds of links on a page to actually indicate to a search engine that there's value on this page. So don't be losing sleep at night because every one of your 14 million products doesn't have 100 links pointed to it, and how am I going to manage this, and I don't have enough monkeys on enough typewriters to make enough content for me. So, Blacko, you okay with monkeys on typewriters?
We love monkeys.
Yeah, okay, awesome. There you go. So really, guys, just be really, really smart about where you're investing your time and look for the areas that you're already strong in and leverage that, right? It is so overlooked today in our speed to try to move faster that it really does work.
For the e-commerce site, by the way, so I was at lunch with somebody who is from an e-commerce site. One of the things he talked about that they've been doing is actually producing that editorial content, that they are not just going with the manufacturer's photos, they're going through and they're taking their own photos and producing their own videos. You might take a look at a site I love, which is called Whole Latte Love. They own espresso machines, coffee, I mean, anything you want. I mean, there's like a coffee percolator mat to figure out what you want to do with it. It's just full of that sort of stuff. You can even look at something like Best Buy, right? What is Best Buy? They don't have editorial content, but they do. They've got all these user reviews. And actually, every time I do a search on a search engine and try to search for something with a review, and I get that not satisfactory result, though I know it's greatly improved in the past 2 weeks, apparently. Then I think, why didn't I just go to Best Buy in the first place? Because they have these reviews that are sitting there. So there are other things you can do. Matt, can we just have like a PageRank this button? And then we could just put that at the bottom of our pages, and then we could tell people, hey, don't just like us, PageRank us. And then so I can promise that everybody will put it on their pages, and they will make like buttons just seem like yesterday's Oldsmobile.
So let me wrap my head around what you're trying to say and see if I can understand it. You're saying some button that's basically a signal that you like it, but for lack of a better word, you're telling Google you like it as well.
You giving people buttons to block things. Why not some buttons to say loved it?
That's good feedback.
PageRank this.
No,
and then you could have a little button that comes up, and it can say what you want to say about it. We could have the suggested anchor text, and maybe it even pops up and it says. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit too far.
I'll take that feedback back to the Googleplex. Maybe not the anchor text, but if you could tell people that you like the site, and then if you had social signals to say it's not just links, it's also people who are liking a site, I think that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, remember the smiley face, which you spoke about at your very first time ever speaking at a conference. You said, look, I got these, and they're all gone.
So the toolbar used to have happy and frowny buttons, and my wife actually drew the happy and frowny buttons. Oh. We have not had enough UI resources at Google for a very long time. So.
Hey, Matt. Can you talk about the SEO Moz case study that said that a page that was tweeted outperformed a page that just had links pointing at it, ordinary, regular links, not Superman links? Because apparently you disagreed and you had to tweet about it immediately.
Yes, I can talk about that. So I haven't looked at the data that they cited, but there's a couple conclusions you can draw from it. So if you have two pages, one gets tweeted and gets regular links, and the other one gets regular links. I think they were saying that the one that got tweeted got more traffic or ranked higher in Google.
Yes.
And I don't want to dispute that. I'm perfectly willing to believe that. But whenever I read that, some people were taking that as, oh, this link got tweeted, and therefore, it got treated as if it had more links in Google. And that didn't sound quite right, because while we do use Twitter as a social signal, it tends to be within the real-time results. Mm-hmm. So I turned around, Amit was in my office, he's the head of the core ranking group at Google, and I said, this doesn't sound right, that a link that just happened to be tweeted would rank higher than something that had links. And he said, yeah, there's nothing in our algorithm that would have any factor like that. Now that said, starting about this week or so, we have social search where if you have shared something, you can see a little avatar where it's like, Mike Industries shared this, and then for you personally, that might boost you up. So I'd have to look into the data.
But you guys had said previously that social signals were part of the regular search results as well. You didn't say it was a huge part, but
it's definitely, and I'd like to clarify it. In the past, it has definitely been a second-order effect. So it wouldn't be a direct signal used in the rankings. It would be a signal that would be used, for example, in the real-time results. Now, over time, it's entirely possible we'll use that more and more, and you start to see that now where something that's been tweeted by a friend or someone that we think is your friend is a little more likely to rank higher. But I'd love to look at the detailed stats and the data that SEO Moz put up, because it could be that whenever that link got tweeted, maybe that got more attention, which then got a halo effect where you get follow-on links. That could have been the case. But that just by itself, the assertion that just the tweet had caused it to rank higher, that didn't necessarily.
But it shouldn't. I mean, it shouldn't be harmful. In fact, it seemed to go with what you said before, and it's one of the things I've talked about is tweets or Facebook likes is the new link building. I mean, if you have a page that's being circulated socially, that's going to lead to other good things,
yes.
it seems like.
And if you step back a little bit, I completely agree with the idea that social can be a really great way not just to find spam, but to find trusted content. I think I did this video, and you had that great article, but at the same time right now, I wouldn't want people to get too far ahead and be like, aha, I need no links whatsoever. All I need is to have Ashton Kutcher tweet it. And that's not the case right now. Now, if people see it because Ashton tweeted about it and then they do links, then that can cause it to rank. But certainly the trend over time is for us to use social data more and more. But right now, that didn't sound like that was a correct study. So I'd have to look into the data.
Okay. How should new UGC user-generated content sites expose new content? For example, I'm starting a new Q&A site, so I want to have pages that have questions on them, even though they may not have any answers. But I'm afraid Google will think my site is low quality because of this. But then I can't get anybody to answer the questions if they can't find them on Google.
The site is low quality, sorry. You know, okay, so.
Signed.
I've actually worked on both sides of this, right?
Signed Quora.
My last company was Topics, right? So I've sort of done the SEO play, and I'm familiar with it, and now I'm building the search engine and trying to get all the junk out of the web. So I've sort of worked on both sides of the fence, and it's interesting. I actually really like PR as a way for launching a new site. Right? And come out with something interesting. Like, be interesting. Take a flip camera or your iPhone and shoot a video and put yourself in it and just be real. Don't be slick. Don't copy content. It's so cheap to make cool content, even about things that are supposed to be boring, right? When somebody's buying a dishwasher, you know, the dishwasher is the most interesting thing in the world to them. My wife spent weeks researching the dishwasher, right? And even, you know, a week after you get it, you're like, wow, cool new dishwasher, right? And you're playing with it. And you know more than the guy in the store about it, right? If you're selling dishwashers, you know, like the Seinfeld was always talking about the J. Peterman copy on, you know, in the catalog, right? You know, do your J. Peterman on it. Like, don't use the stock photo from the photo bank. Take out your iPhone, take the picture, tweet it out, put it on Facebook, you know, socially share it. If you've got questions that you want to get out and you want people to answer them, broadcast them to, you know, to people on Facebook. Put one out a day or something, and you'll get links. You'll get people replying to it. And sort of having these sort of residual links that are then left in the web where the link-based ranking algorithms come by and put your content now up at the top. That's sort of the end goal, right? That shouldn't be, I think, in 2011, the start of your process. I would, maybe to sum it up more quickly, I'd say, I would spam Twitter and Facebook to get started, and then the links will be the payoff when it works.
So, and you know, there exists an avenue on the web, even before the web, where people would ask questions, right? They're called forums. And if you have a good forum, people show up, and they will organically choose what they're interested in to ask. And you don't have to say, hey, here are 100 questions I think people want, and I'm going to push that in front of you, and will you please answer this? And maybe I have to pay you a small amount of money, and I get a low-quality answer and result, right? If you run a really good forum, and there are forums for, like, bodybuilders and like people who try to pirate satellite radio and people who just like everything. There's even forums for people who like search engines and SEOs, right? And that content can be quite useful, right? Because people are passionate, they show up, they have a real information need, they want to know what's the best dishwasher, and they ask it. And if you're trying to push on that rope, if you're trying to say, oh, I know what our users want, I'm going to create the content, and now I just have to find people to fill in the answer, it's probably not going to be as compelling.
So I'll add something. I mean, the person who asked the question, you've been essentially told your baby is ugly. I don't think your baby's that ugly, and here's why. I mean, as Matt alluded to, right, everybody talks about social media today like it's this big thing, right? It's a 2.0. Does everybody remember when it was 0.20? You know, back before blogs, we had community forums. And a lot of those forums, I've started my fair share, you had to actually ask the question, answer the question with good, knowledgeable information. Because nothing sucks worse than going to a website and realizing you're the only one there. So you have to have this kind of groundswell, right? So the PR launch, thoughtfully using a social media campaign, including Twitter and Facebook maybe. And growing that base somehow is how you start all of these things. And if you're going into something like a Q&A site, then you're going to need some gravity of your own to carry it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you put up a page of content that's a dynamic shell and it's just the question, one line, honestly, the search engines are going to look at that and say, wow, it's not very deep content. You know? Does anybody remember back in the day, the general rule was 250 words of content on a page? You know, that's not just a random number. There's a reason behind it. It's so that there's a depth of content. That's the intent. It's not a hard and fast rule, but the point is, you know, if you're going to write something, you should write something meaningful. So if you want to start a Q&A site, you want to do this kind of thing, get your family involved, get your friends involved, get your alumni involved, and have people come in and answer the questions thoughtfully. Build out that content for you. Become an authority resource on something. Pick a niche. You know, review dog collars and do all Q&A on dog collars and become the leading Q&A site on dog collars, and then expand from that. Eventually, you will take over the world.
Yep. And think about Quora. Like, when they started, they really cared about the quality of the answers. They really cultivated that, and that can make a big difference.
Question for Matt, although this can dive in if you need to. Some SEOs have been saying recently that they think there's too much emphasis on keyword-rich domains and exact match anchor text. Are there any plans to reduce the algorithm's emphasis on these two factors?
We're looking at it. I mean, that's something that we heard back as early as PubCon. So it's, you know, there's always reasons to do it, reasons not to do it, because there are a wide variety of domains where it's actually pretty helpful and descriptive, and that's the brand name and stuff like that. But we've heard that feedback. We're looking at that.
What is Google's stance, or anybody's stance, on paid press release distribution? Good thing, bad thing? Do those links technically count as paid links?
So buying links again? I mean,
well, no. Let me put this into perspective, though. Okay, because I can go over to PR Web and I can buy a thing that will show up in Google News. I think PR Web. There's many other things too that will show up in Google News as a trusted editorial resource. And the things that I will get is, hey, I can put in some links there. And I'm well familiar with this because, you know, every week I get some press release that's sent to me on something I'm monitoring about, and there's a billion anchor text things in there. So, answer, but I mean, it's not like these things aren't in Google, and yeah, but you don't recommend it.
There's a lot of signal in a $1,000 business wire launch. I mean, that's a lot of money to pay for a link, right? And so it's more than some other places you can get links.
I cut you off, Dwayne. Now I'm feeling really bad. Don't. It falls into what you said earlier, which is if you're doing it for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, if your point is that you want to try to buy your way into a link, you know, how can I put this, that you are link rich, obviously that's not going to be a way forward. If it's a legitimate business tactic that you're employing as a part of a larger marketing plan for your site, it makes sense to pay a PR agency to send something out there. I personally would never use it as the only tactic that I'm investing my time and money in, because those things are not necessarily as long-lived and used as folks want to believe they are. I mean, press releases, you have to hit the right people at the right time to get the lift from them. If you can do it, it can generate a lot of long-term value for you. Most press releases that go out in a day, no one ever sees them. Not the journalism people, none of the websites, they just process through. So just, you know, think of it thoughtfully, right? And take a look at, well, here's my marketing budget. How much am I going to spend in the different areas? What do I expect to get from them?
And at least for Google, probably the directly paid link on the press release we wouldn't want to count. But if you get that to a journalist and the journalist editorially thinks this is cool and writes that up in their newspaper, then that's where you've passed the bar where somebody's like, oh, this is really worthwhile, right? So the websites where you're paying in the press release and you get some, you know, keyword-rich anchor text as a part of the press release, that's probably not going to count very much or at all in Google. But if part of the signal is you pay a real agency to send this out to real people, and those are real journalists who write real stories, then that's something where you can try to maybe give that a little bit more weight. Again, just make sure that the journalist actually includes a link to your startup as opposed to 3 spammy sites that you threw out of your index, because sometimes they mix that up.
Matt, I really like your writings. Link to me, Cialis.
What did you say?
No, it doesn't say that.
I didn't hear that quite right.
I'm just reading spam on your blog. No. Matt, I like your writings. Link to me. Silence. No. Ask Matt. I demand this. No, it doesn't. Ask Matt to clarify Google's position on CSS image replacement other than the -99px method. And what about expo markers, just to see if I can keep up with what you're asking me, and I can't.
Expo markers. I don't know about that, but hidden text, not a good idea, right? Don't hide text. I think Miley said that.
And thus another tweet is born. Hidden text, not a good idea. Matt Cutts.
Yeah, it's pithy. It fits in a tweet. Hidden text, not a good idea.
SMX pound session number whatever.
Yeah, 3A, 2B, whatever the tweet thing is. Now, if you want to worry about accessibility, there's ways to do that, right? You can make screen readers and stuff. Just put the very first link so that it's useful for a screen reader. You don't have to hide that link. You don't have to embed it 9,999 pixels that way. Just make it so it's a visible link, and that's the ideal way to handle it.
What can we, or search engines, do when spammers, link farms, that's what it says, link to our content? How much bad signal do these type of links send to search engines about a site? So can links kill you from other people? How do you stay safe in that wide world of the web?
So we have a monthly meeting with the Webmaster Tools team up in Washington, and this came up, and I passed it on as a feature request because someone had recently, a large company had been buying links and realized the error of their ways, and they wanted to clean that up. And so it's not the company you're thinking of either. And so they were like, wow, it would be really great if we could just give you the links that we don't want to count and we want to disavow, essentially. But our algorithms are already written such that, for the most part, those links are not counting. And so on the feature request, list, it's always been kind of low on the list. So I, mentioned again, even as much as last week, to sort of say this might be a good idea, just so people can submit that data. But we do try very hard when we write our algorithms to make it so that Dwayne can't do something that'll hurt my website, and I'm sure that everybody else does similar attempts as well.
I mean, we're aware that you guys don't want to get yourselves caught in that scenario. It's really bad. Your competitor goes out and then just decides, hey, you know what? I'm just going to pound you with negative links. I mean, don't be investing your resources into trying to deal with that. That's what we manage. That's what we do. And we see these things happening. We know the sites that, we don't want to see links coming out of. And if they suddenly start showing up to a site that we like, I mean, that raises a flag for us, and we've got to seriously look at that and determine, hey, it's unlikely that guy fell off his nut and decided, I'm full of tiger blood, and I'm going to go on out here and change my model.
Winning!
There you go, right?
Tiger blood!
I was getting worried we wouldn't have had a reference.
I actually tweeted Charlie Sheen the other night and asked him after he was fired, now that you've got winner, are you going to go get loser? So he didn't respond. Bastard. So seriously, it's something that you should be aware of, but again, as a business, you have to think strategically about where you're investing your time. And as a consultant or an agency, you have to be careful about where you're investing your time on behalf of your client. So you want to watch for those things. If they suddenly start showing up, did you do something to upset someone? Is someone out to get you? Whatever, by all means be aware of that. Hop into your Webmaster Tools accounts, find out, are you suddenly seeing signals that, we can't get to pages to crawl them, you're getting malware errors, these kinds of things. But really, we're watching this, right? We're kind of on top of this, making sure that we're not accidentally penalizing someone because, another guy woke up with a hate on for you this morning and decided he was going to invest 8 hours into building poor links.
There was that old SEO best practices, right? If you've got your network of sites and Matt bans one of them, what you should do is go point that at all the competitors that are ahead of you in the SERPs, right? That's what you should do. But in computer security, that's called a denial of service attack, and so we generally try to only count positive signals because, I would say with the exception of identifying a network of sites that appears to be run by different people, but it's actually all the same person, and we'll look at link graph stuff. Co-hosting, are you on the same IP address? Do the robots.txt look the same? Do you have the same ad codes? That sort of thing.
Rich, lightning round. How'd you identify the block domains, human or algorithmic?
Sorry?
How did you identify? I'm going to throw you 3 questions at you fast.
The 1.1
How did you
million
identify
sites?
the 1.1?
Well, the 20 sites came from our users clicking they hated this site on it. Those were sites like eHow and AnswerBag. Those came up at the top of that list. The 1.1 million was an algorithmic technique. So that was basically the intersection between three signals in our system. One was aggressive participation in online ad networks, not one site with one set of ads, but you've got the same ad on a whole network of sites, or you've got a bunch of ads on there. Low rank and thin content. And I saw this data set was so pure. When we go and do things like audit our spam classifier, if I take 10,000 porn classifier, 10,000 random porn sites out, you go through it, you'll find error. There's always error in the algorithms. This spam list is so pure that we really had a hard time finding false positives on it. So I think most of the people running ads on the net are bad, actually.
How many spam clips? What's that? Oh, I heard grumbling. I'm trying to do lightning round. Now I've got to extend it. What was the grumbling?
There was a quotable quote from Rich, which I think will get tweeted.
Say it again, Rich. I need.
Well, the problem is if you make a machine that prints money, right? If you have a self-service ad system and anybody can go and they can put their name and address in and their social security number, and then checks will come, right? That gets exploited, right? Hey, there's a machine that's going to give you money, and all you have to do is put up some content as cheaply as possible and try and rank. And it turns out a majority of those systems, most of the content is not the Washington Post, it's not New York Times, it's not the good sites. Most of the sites on the internet are not in the top 3 or the top 10. They're in the bottom half. And if you cut that off, you say, wow, most of this stuff really, is not very good. It's we've got, 200 billion URLs on the web, and, most people don't want to see most of them.
But all of our sites are good.
So I'll go on the record and say I don't necessarily agree that running ads on your site is automatically makes you a bad site. I'll play to the crowd a little bit. Can you overdo it? Absolutely. Yeah, I think you can. But
I mean, if we're running AdSense, we're okay because you guys like AdSense.
No, come on. You don't boost. See, now I have to play the straight guy, and I have to. No, you don't get a ranking boost. No, you don't get.
I'm setting you up to clarify. I saw somebody. I just saw this on Quora. Somebody asked, "Can I buy ads? Does that help me rank better on Google?" I'm like, really? You're asking this in 2011? But okay, I guess Quora needs more content.
It's like one of the oldest conspiracy theories. It doesn't help you to buy ads. It doesn't help you to run AdSense. You don't drop down if you buy ads because there are some opposing conspiracy theories. And we just need to put all those guys in the room and let them fight it out. And then one conspiracy theorist will come out and then alarm wrestle him. But no.
Rich, lightning round. 10 seconds. How many spam clicks does it take until you wipe somebody out in Wacko?
I don't have that data.
78%?
I don't know how many clicks there are. I keep getting asked that from those 20 people, though.
You know what? People should just start clicking themselves on spam for themselves until they disappear, and if they count it. And do you support XML sitemaps?
Sorry?
XML sitemaps.
We do not currently consume sitemaps. We like links that humans can see.
Are you not a grown-up search engine? Come on! Why wouldn't you take sitemaps? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that sound so mean.
It's 4 months old, Danny. It's 4 months old.
All right. It's just we had Unity for a little bit, and Unity again. Okay. Let's see what else we got here.
That was just mean.
Matt, I bought a lot of AdSense now.
Okay, it doesn't help you in ranking.
Yeah. If I buy AdSense and I have 3 ads, no. Why did crawl rate to site decline with the Panda update? I get that my content might not rank as well, but what? You're not going to even crawl it now?
I'm not aware of that factor, but if we think your site is not as useful to users, then we might not crawl it as much or as deeply.
And nah. So, sorry, sometimes I interpret too much.
I was just trying to stay under 10 seconds.
Sometimes you have to interpret, Matt, though, because the best thing is when you were quoted in that Wired article, and you're like, I won't name the site, but they're like, but this site says that they're fine. And Matt's like, I'm confident the site is taken out. And that was Matt like going, yeah, no, they're bad. That's my polite, but I'm not going to say it. But other Googlers are learning. You should have seen yesterday. We had an awesome answer. I can't remember who it was, but it was a non-answer that was a yes. And I know it was a yes because after I said, so that's a yes, and he smiled with that, yes, I'm confirming without confirming. Okay. Where did it go? Oh, so I can't find it, but I remember it. It was an issue of, okay, we get that Panda was looking for low-quality content, and that a preponderance of low-quality content within a website potentially will bring down the entire site, even if you've got the good stuff in there. So what do I have to do? Just get rid of the low-quality stuff, and then I'm back, maybe?
It is the case that if you have enough low-quality content that it can affect your entire site's reputation, right? That is the case. So, I mean, the question to ask yourself is, what can I do in terms of original research, value add, original content? What are the things that users are going to love? Because if you go back and watch my videos from 5 years ago, the stuff I would say is make a site that users love, that they tell people about, that they bookmark, that they go back to, that they link to. Those are the kinds of sites that are going to do well. That advice has stayed the same for 5 years. And if you can find that hook, that way of doing it, you're still in good shape, right? So what I've said before, and it's still true, rather than chasing the Google search algorithm, chase after what you think users are going to absolutely fanatically love, because that's what we're trying to return as well. So instead of the search algorithm of the month, then you're sort of, and by the way, we have many more search algorithms queued up for the rest of this year, right? So rather than chasing after the search algorithm of the month, you're going straight for users to the degree that you can. And then search engines are trying to find you rather than the other way around.
By the way, if you guys want to ask them some questions at the end, especially new features, what I really wish we could get from the search engines, we can do that at the end if you like. So just give you some time to think. You might not be familiar with the fact that all of Matt's videos are available on DVD, and they are available in the hallway after this session. He is signing them. It's a 5-disc version, and now in Blu-ray, and soon coming to Hulu. Okay. But yes. Can you imagine? I got 48 hours of Matt. With outtakes.
That's true. We've done songs.
Great. How do the search engines handle white hat cloaking? Not that such a thing exists, and I'm reading it literally, so I'm enjoying that. Not that such a thing exists, but let's just say, such as showing non-flash versions of pages to spiders, or ad networks like Chitika that only display their ad units to users who click through from search.
White hat cloaking is kind of a contradiction of terms for Google, right? So show Google the same content that users would see. If you're going to show some Chitika ads or some AdSense, show AdSense. And what you'll find is the bots will tend not to execute the JavaScript that would load the Chitika ads or the AdSense ads or whatever, and that's fine because it's at our discretion. Same thing with Flash. Rather than cloaking Flash, make a page that's accessible to people who want to click around and find links. It's not hard to have a text version. It's not the worst thing in the world to have a link there that says, oh, here's how you can also see the content. So in all the cases that we've talked about over many, many years, we've never had to make a white hat cloaking exception, and if someone tells you there is, that's dangerous, and be careful about that.
First click free.
Yeah, it's...
First click free is not cloaking because the user sees the same content as Googlebot. If there's different content, it's when you click on the outgoing links after you've landed on that landing page. So Boy Scouts honor, I don't consider first click free to be cloaking because you see exactly what Googlebot saw. It's only after you click out that you then see the subscription or the paywall or that sort of thing. And that's our answer for premium content.
If you guys find yourselves in a scenario where this is something you need to consider, I mean, just the fact that it's generally known as cloaking, use that as a clue, right? This is not necessarily... The Klingons never showed up with good intent. So, they claim to, but, but seriously, there are reasons why. You may have an area of your website that is this awesome mashup, right? Go ahead, show a down-level experience, make sure we get it. But please keep in mind that the search engine is staffed by human beings who may end up looking at the product. And, we can tell that what we're seeing with the crawler is not what, my dude down the hall is seeing while he's sipping chocolate milk. And this is a problem for you. If, however, you want a rich experience for your users, you know what? Now you're really investing in your UX, which is something we appreciate. We want you to do, and the users are going to come back to it. But man, if you're putting your content inside these rich things, Seriously, rethink this. Great for infograms, great for interactive little tools and whatnot. But content on your page, it's like taking all your words and putting them in a JPEG and then loading that up on the page and saying, here's my content. Great, good luck with that.
Pound SMX. Klingons are not evil. In episode 25, they...
Sorry, guys, I got Danny off on a rant here.
I'm just telling you what comes in. Where did it go? There's. How big is a factor? How big of a factor is site traffic in determining rankings? So this is a good question. If a site is very popular, does that make you more inclined to make sure it ranks well?
Someone doing the query site :
No, a site, as in website. Like, if I'm a website and I'm Amazon and I'm popular, does that help me more than some other shopping site that doesn't have a lot of traffic coming to it? That's a no. That's a no. That means you haven't even had to think about that in your backroom little discussions.
Yeah, I mean, my standard spiel at that point is to say, while we would never take any signals off the table, it would be interesting to think about that, but it might be noisy.
You're not going through and using like the toolbar or some other method to say, well, these are the top 100 most trafficked websites, so let's make sure they get a little boost, because that makes sense.
No, we're not doing that. Now, we have said that we do use the toolbar to improve search quality in some ways, but no, it's not like, oh yeah, you get a lot of traffic, so you get more traffic? That seems...
Okay.
Yeah, boost, no. Signal, yes. But the thing to remember here is if you're building traffic, then you probably have something that's attracting users. That same something that's attracting users will likely attract our attention. At that point, we're just going to assess you based on quality, page against page, and the rest of the ranking stack. So, it's not that the sites that are getting that traffic are suddenly more, hey, that's obviously authority. Let's everything on the internet tilt over there. It doesn't work that way. But if you have more traffic, there's a chance you're doing something right. So you need to discover exactly what that is. Wash, rinse, repeat.
I mean,
that will make you successful.
You can imagine somebody might think, hey, I'm going to create a search engine, and we're going to use a really highly accurate traffic metric like Alexa. And whenever you search, was that a joke? Yes. We will rank, that will do that. We're only taking in Alexa sites or something like that. So, but no, and signal, no. Signal. No,
we actually looked at the traffic, because you can actually go buy that kind of stuff from ISPs. You can go to United Online or Comcast and pay them a bunch of money, and they spy on all their users, and you can get the URL list. But the problem was that it might work great for the head, right? You can probably tell the difference between the New York Times and New York Post and say who's got more traffic. But when you get down into the tail of the billions of different queries people might be able to do, they're just for the cost for a little startup like us to pay for that data versus what it would actually do in the rankings, it just didn't seem material, so we didn't end up using it.
I want to move content from one site to the other. How do the search engines look at this? Will it be a problem that the content used to be on site A is now on site B? And who asked that? I'm not trying to call you out, but I am. Are you moving it from one domain, and that domain is still going to continue to exist, but now you have a different domain? Or are you getting rid of that domain and redirecting everybody from one place to the other?
TripAdvisor, we have our reviews on TripAdvisor, and then we take our content that we don't want on TripAdvisor anymore, and we give it to our sister sites for them to use. So
it is going to be on a completely different domain.
It's completely removed from TripAdvisor, and it's on another site.
301 is your friend here. If the content has permanently moved to a new location, 301.
Well,
do you want to do it?
But we don't do a 301. We actually remove it from the. So it just doesn't exist anymore on TripAdvisor. We don't do a 301 from TripAdvisor to the other site.
You don't want a 301 to them.
Yeah, we don't 301. We let it de-index from Google, then we put it on another site.
So you get a page listed in Google, then you take it down.
Yes.
And you give it to another site.
Yes.
And you don't redirect the old listing from Google to the new one.
That's correct.
Because you want to make people angry, or why don't you just redirect?
Or is it your decision on directing traffic from TripAdvisor to the other brand site?
It sounds more like performance art than SEO. Because if you get the content ranked, but then you just take it back down, but then you put it up somewhere else, it's really hard to tell where the content went to, or is that just a scraper? So normally a 301 is what you'd use, and if you can't do a 301 because of your CMS, you can use a rel canonical, which does cross domains now. But taking it down and then putting it up, I mean, it could just as easily have been a scraper who put that up. So it doesn't automatically follow that we should put the new site, new page where the old guy used to rank.
Because,
so it seems weird.
Because part of your ranking algorithms are going to be based on authority of the site and people linking to the site. And
yeah, there's history. There's, that work that was done on the domain where it originally came from, you're essentially walking away from that. And then you're handing this to someone else and saying, here, this can work, go for it. I'm really not sure if that's it's not going to help, that's for sure. It's going to take them as long to start developing traffic as the original did.
Yeah, it would dupe out in our system. I mean, the first one was, first, and then it had higher rank, and, the second one's going to be completely occluded by the shadow. And that shadow may linger for a while, at least in our system, after the content vanishes.
I mean, imagine if you had a really cool cafe, right, and you built up this reputation of this cafe, and it was at the street corner, and it was really good people, and everybody was really happy with it, and then you shut that cafe down, and you took all the people to a different town, right? That the new cafe would not automatically inherit the reputation of the old one. So
we're not actually worried about the new one inheriting any of the value the old one had. We're just trying to give value. Like a lot of companies here have like shopping sites or something like that, and we don't want to have a thin page. So basically, what we're doing is we want to make sure that the other site that wants to have not just a listing of a hotel. They want to actually have content on that page that gives value to that user on that site. So what we're doing is we're willing to take the loss of the SEO to benefit the user on that other site. Because we want that user, if they happen to like that brand or that other site, to get more than just the listing of the hotel. Well, so we give the content to that site.
But why wouldn't you, suppose you just had shut down your cafe, why wouldn't you put a little sign up that says, hey, if you want to eat here, we're over on 101 Main Street. Like, why not use a 301 redirect? Because then all the incoming links would accrue to the new page location.
Well, you said the rel canonical. We can actually use that? Is that
Well, 301
valid?
would be my first choice because that's one that everybody understands and it's very simple. But if you can't generate 301s, you can use rel canonical.
Okay, I'm going to stop us there because I only have 3 minutes left and I have to lightning round some stuff. So
It was interesting, though. It's fun.
You can probably catch him afterwards just a little bit later. I'm like really dead serious on the lightning round, okay? So like quick.
Super serial.
Why does Google Webmaster Tools still identify URLs on my site as 404 when they've been fixed in 301?
I'm not sure I heard that clearly. I'm sorry.
I've got Webmaster Tools saying I have 404s, but I fixed them and I 301 them, but you're still saying they're 404s.
The data can take a while to update.
All right. Oh, that's excellent. Man. We have all of our international sites on our root domain divided into subfolders by country code. When we submit, our XML sitemap is in Webmaster Central. Should we submit a different XML sitemap for each country? Or is it okay to submit all of our international pages in one XML file?
Miley, I think, is in the audience. I would catch her
Miley,
after.
hand. Expose yourself. Talk to her afterward.
So I'm not exactly sure, but that's the perfect kind of question to ask in our Webmaster forum, because we have people who answer those kinds of questions.
Miley only knows about XML sitemaps, by the way. It's not possible for her to answer any other questions. Do not approach Miley with diagrams of your website. Use with caution. I'll just end on this one. Forget the lightning round. Because they're not lightning round questions. I'm sorry. So when I create unique and popular content, sites like Huffington Post would pick it up and steal my thunder by ranking higher than me for my content. Sigh. Any suggestions? Could you ban Huffington Post? Or is that because they have AdSense? No. You know what? I really need to have you in the future moderate a session of SEOs. Revenge shall be yours.
That'd be fun. So, are we lightning rounding or no?
No, you can take them.
Okay. So, in general, one of the narratives for this year is going to be low quality content, spam, what some people call content farms. That's certainly one of the major type of things. But I think another story arc for Google this year is going to be helping authors, helping original creators of content, helping authoritative sites who generate that content. So we've already done a scraper change that will tend to find sites that scrape and push them down. We're thinking about changes like if we see a site that we think might have originated the content or might be authoritative and another site that's higher up, maybe we can swap those positions. I personally think it would be really cool if we would provide more ways in Webmaster Tools to say, this is my content. So the problem is right now, if we were to do that, it wouldn't be actionable. The only thing you could do is maybe file a DMCA complaint. And the truth is, most scrapers don't outrank you, and they'll tend to, the worst they can do is give you free links whenever they link to you from their scraped content. So most people worry about scrapers more than they need to. But we're looking at ways that we can improve things over the course of this year to try to help and push up those authoritative original content creating sites. It depends. So links, the litmus test is going to be whether we think a link counts. If we happen to catch a scraper, then it probably wouldn't count. But if it's something that we haven't caught, which is possible because they're in the search index, maybe at the very, very bottom of the barrel, then that link could count. But if somebody copies you and has a link to your content because you had the link in your own content, sometimes those links can count, absolutely. I tend not to worry at all about scrapers on my personal blog, for example.
Oh, Tony, we're just shouting questions from the front row because I'm there. And Matt says hi to me in the hallways. I could just say anything I want. I don't need to use no damn form. All right. What was it again? Repeat it. Did you hear what he said?
So the question was, what about sites like BuzzFeed and people that sort of maybe have an excerpt or two and then a link? And some sites like Dig or things like that, those links can, under some circumstances, count. So, whether it's social or TechMeme or various aggregators or Google News, sometimes those kinds of links can count.
In general, we can tell where the original content came from. I mean, we do have a pretty good view of the internet, so there's a really good chance that when you actually publish something on your website and then that gets syndicated out and someone else is using it with your permission, we're going to know that it came from you. But there's a lot of other signals that are going into why, in this example, Huffington Post may be outranking the original site. I mean, it's a popular site. It does well. So generally anything it publishes is going to get kind of burnished by that, and that's a good thing for all of their content, even if it happens to be your words. So maybe you need to start looking at the business model and deciding, hey, am I an expert in this area? That's why they partnered with me. And if that's the case, then I should be looking at my contracts that I have and understanding where I should be asking for value, or maybe trading off and being, I'm the author that will write for you for payment, as opposed to, well, I'm going to put it on my site, and if you want to come by and take it, that's okay. I have an agreement with you. And I feel really great that HuffPo's using my stuff. But 6 months, 9 months in, I'm wondering, where's the value for me? I mean, there's a lot more to this, right? It's not just, I'm going to write it, and that is awesome. I feel so good that somebody who's recognized wants to use it. You have to approach all of this as a business, and you have to seriously look at it and say, what's in my best interest as a business?
Quick poll?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, so we're out of time. We're way out of time, but let's poll. Yes, questions for the audience?
So I've got 3 potential features that I might, bug the Webmaster Tools team about to see whether they want to do. And I'd like to see what people would like to do. So first off, let's take a sort of response rate show of hands. Everybody should raise their hand for this one. How many people want more transparency in messaging in Webmaster Tools? That's just to get everybody warmed up. Okay, so that's the baseline. Yeah. You're like, oh, please be more opaque. I hate it when Google gives me information. Okay, so how many people would like the ability, and you'll have to be a little brave if you want to raise your hand for this, but I'd love to see how many. How many people want to have the ability to submit the ability to disavow links, to say these links shouldn't count? Okay, thank you. Okay. How many people right now, you can see 404s on your own site, but you can't see what you link to that's 404'd. So I have a blog, and how many people would like to see, oh, okay, more, okay. Now, right now, whenever you accidentally put credit card numbers and social security numbers up on the web, you have to truly remove that page and return a 404 status code for the page to go away. How many people would like to say, I proved I own the site, I can make anything on the site disappear immediately, expedited removal? Awesome. Okay, thank you very much.
I got something.
I have 7 features that I'm adding to my
awesome
Webmaster Tools. And I'm not actually going to go through them because I'll be honest, guys, really what I want is I want you to come talk to me and tell me what you want most, right? Rather than going through this. I mean, I fully agree with the approach. There's so much that I want to invest in, but I need to hear directly from you guys. And since I'm the guy that kind of feeds that back into our process at Bing, you need to find me. Blogs, Twitter, parking lot, airplane seat next to me, whatevs, and tell me what you need.
I really like the 404 outbound. So I'm going to try and implement that before Google does on Black and Such SEO. That's a really good idea, and I can go write that tonight.
SEO features smackdown.
We have made the search industry better.
How many of you would like Google to report full backlink data for any site on the web? No, so most of you don't really care.
Who here wants a pony and a unicorn?
No.
Anyone? No? Oh, unicorn. Okay.
How many of you would like to have Bing, officially confirm that they will maintain Yahoo Site Explorer, just as, Bing Site Explorer? Okay.
I have a question.
I'm assuming the rest of you that aren't...
Danny, you opened the door here. I have a question.
Yeah.
How many of you have active Bing Webmaster accounts right now? Raise your hand.
Right on.
How many
Good
of
for
you have been into our index tracker?
What's an index tracker?
Exactly. See? So how many of you know that in there, every URL we have in our index will actually show you the inbound link pointed at it, the domain, and the anchor text? Ooh. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Verify, go check it out. And then get back to me about what exactly it is you're missing.
Yeah. Girlfriend.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm saying that we have similar data for you.
All right, we are going to stop there. Before everybody moves, listen, there's only a 15-minute break, and actually it's like 13 or 12. In this same room, we will have SEOs doing what they did, except differently. It's all Q&A. And I know that you love to speak to every single one of these speakers, and that you don't love Matt more than the rest, and that there won't be a wedge of people that prevents him getting off the stage. But I'm going to insist that none of you that want to talk to him come to this stage. And I'm going to insist that you don't talk to any of them, that you get the hell out of the room and talk to them in the hallway. Because otherwise I can't get the session going. Okay. So if you want to get Matt, you stand out there by that door and see where he lands. Okay. And you can eat on the way. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you.